Mindfulness practice is called sensing and being with the breath. In the chapter on spiritual traditions and the world's religion, one of the concepts that was discussed in many of the traditions is this idea that our breath is the gateway to the divine, that the breath is somehow our essence, our soul, our inner compass. And so learning to be with the breath and control the breath and regulate the breath is one way that we can keep our bodies in a regulated, calm state, which helps us embody the inner compass. For the purpose of this exercise, we will be experimenting with just noticing what our breath is. We're not going to try changing it at this point in time. So I invite you to find a comfortable place to sit. You can try a traditional meditation position if you feel called to do that. If you'd like to have your eyes open, I invite you to find a soft place to gaze. And if you'd like to experiment with your eyes closed, I invite you to allow them to gently soften and close. Once you have settled into your seat, I invite you to begin to go inward and just listen and notice what is happening inside your body. Again, the goal of this practice is to witness what is present without trying to change it. We are experimenting with learning mindfulness, and this is another way of developing mindfulness, is by focusing on the breath and observing the breath. Again, with mindfulness, we want to experiment with accepting what is present with non-judgment. In other words, we want to try not to label what we are sensing as good or bad. We want to offer it some curiosity. And we want to offer it some love or acceptance. I invite you to begin to bring your awareness to your breath. I really encourage you not to try to change what the breath is doing, but I invite you to just witness it, to just notice what is happening in your breath. Due to the chronic stress and the fast pace of life many of us experience, we have gotten into patterns because of the fast pace of breathing in a short and shallow manner, where the breath is in our upper chest or clavicle area where the shoulders are, and it can be quite short. This can lead to an activated sympathetic nervous system, such as a fight-flight response, and it could lead us to see danger when there isn't actually danger. This is sort of what anxiety feels like, is the short, shallow breath. For other of us, we have become accustomed to breathing in a way that is a collapsed state, where perhaps we hold our breath. And this can lead sometimes to a sympathetic nervous system response, and at other times a parasympathetic nervous system response, where we're kind of not able to sense dangers. We're kind of in a collapsed state and unable to protect ourselves. Again, whatever you're noticing is perfectly okay. I really want to normalize that it is normal for the breath to not be in an ideal way of functioning. Luckily for us, our breathing mechanism is something that is automatic, which is what keeps us alive. And yet we also have the ability to learn to control our breath and to shift our breath. And this is a powerful way of helping us recognize when our body is unregulated, is by focusing on the breath and noticing what the breath is doing. So what are you noticing? Where do you feel the breath inside your body? Again, don't try to change where the breath is going, but just observe your natural tendency. Where does your natural tendency? Where does the breath go? Do you notice any constriction anywhere in the pathway? When you inhale, do you notice constriction in the throat or the chest? Again, don't try to change it. Just observe and notice what is present. Now, I invite you to count how long the inhalation is and how long the exhalation is. Again, don't try to change the length of the breath, but just observe what your natural tendency is. I really want to normalize that Working in this way, if you have a trauma history, can be challenging. So if you're noticing some anxiety arise or some resistance, this is perfectly normal. And I invite you to seek out someone who specializes in mindfulness, either a mental health therapist or a meditation coach who is trauma informed. Learning to be with our internal states when we have a trauma history can be difficult. And I really want to say it is okay. This is part of the process. And I also want to remind you that you are not the totality of your body sensations, your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs. You are actually the observer of these things. You are the inner witness, the inner compass. Again, what do you notice? Once you have begun to notice your breath, you might offer some appreciation to your body for how it breathes intuitively to keep you alive. You might thank the air for providing nourishment to your body. It is the air that oxygenates our blood, and it is the oxygen that keeps our brain healthy and functioning. Breath is quite remarkable. You might offer acceptance to yourself for the way that you are currently breathing, that you have learned to breathe, that this has kept you safe for so long, and you might offer some appreciation. And lastly, you might offer yourself some loving kindness by saying, "May my body be at peace and in a regulated state." After you have completed the exercise, I invite you to create some sort of ritual exploring what it was like to be with your breath. Perhaps journaling, creating an art project, creating a movement piece, or some sort of musical expression, or any other form of creative expression that you feel called to do. Again, don't get discouraged if this was challenging for you. Mindfulness is a habit that we have to learn to cultivate. It's like riding a bike. The more you practice it, the easier it gets, and the more benefits you discover and experience.